Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! In an unsettling twist of fate, Dakari found himself grappling with the aftermath of a foolish wager. A glance in the mirror revealed an unfamiliar figure, a stark contrast to his accustomed demeanor. His typically robust physique was encased in a burgundy sheath, a dress that clung to his contours, provoking a bewildering mix of dismay and intrigue. "How did this happen?" Dakari's voice cracked, his identity obscured by the atypical attire. Vanessa, his sibling, was overtaken by a torrent of laughter in the background. "You've got to honor your word, Dakari. Besides, I reckon you pull this look off better than I ever could." Under the warm glow of the bedroom light, the dress shimmered, almost mocking him with every twist and turn of his body. Matching heels, 4 inches tall and impossibly narrow, had already begun their assault on feet unaccustomed to such torture devices. Long blonde hair from the wig cascaded past shoulders, framing a face that hours of Vanessa's expert makeup application had transformed. "The family reunion starts in 30 minutes. You ready, Amelia?" Vanessa emphasized the feminine name they'd chosen for this charade, applying a final coat of red lipstick that matched the dress perfectly. "This is the last time I ever bet against you," Dakari grumbled, taking tentative steps in the heels. "One afternoon. That's it. Then we never speak of this again." Vanessa adjusted the silicone breast forms she'd somehow procured. Dakari hadn't dared ask from where, and stepped back to admire her handiwork. "You know, if the engineering thing doesn't work out, you could have a promising career as a woman." "Not funny." "I'm serious. Look at yourself." Reluctantly, Dakari looked again. The stranger in the mirror blinked back. Blonde hair fell in soft waves, makeup subtly enhanced features that had somehow been transformed from masculine to feminine. The dress revealed shoulders that appeared more delicate than they had any right to be, and created an illusion of hips where none had existed before. "Let's just get this over with," Dakari sighed, gathering the small clutch purse that completed the ensemble. The car ride to his parents' house felt like a journey to the gallows. Each bump in the road reminded Dakari of the unfamiliar undergarments Vanessa had insisted were necessary for the dress to sit right. The shapewear squeezed in places he hadn't known could be squeezed. "Remember?" Vanessa instructed, as they pulled into the driveway already lined with cars. "You lost the bet. One full family reunion as Amelia. No breaking character." "I hate you so much right now." "Love you too, sis." Vanessa winked, killing the engine. The front door opened before they reached it. Mom stood there, eyes widening as she took in the sight of her son transformed. "Oh my goodness," she gasped, hand flying to her mouth. Her eyes crinkled with unmistakable delight. "Dakari, you look ridiculous," he finished for her, voice dropping to a whisper as he approached. "Please don't make this worse than it already is." Mom's expression shifted to something Dakari couldn't quite read. "Actually, I was going to say beautiful." She ushered them inside, where the sounds of the family gathering echoed from the backyard. "Your father is going to lose his mind." Dad's reaction wasn't what Dakari expected. Instead of the anticipated ridicule or awkward discomfort, his father's face lit up with what could only be described as pride.
"Well, well,"
Dad said, taking in the burgundy dress and the blonde wig.
Who would have thought my son could clean up so nicely as a daughter?
It's for a bet, Dakari explained quickly, voice hushed. Vanessa and I. Aunt Gertrude is here. Mom interrupted, a strange gleam in her eye. You know she's always asking why we never had a daughter after Vanessa. Mom, no. Just for today, she whispered, patting his arm. It would make her so happy. Before Dakari could protest further, his mother had taken his elbow and was guiding him toward the backyard, where relatives from across the country had gathered. The heels sank slightly into the soft lawn, making each step a precarious exercise in balance. Everyone, Mom announced to a cluster of distant relatives, this is Amelia. Dakari opened his mouth to correct her, to explain the ridiculous bet, but the words died as an elderly woman broke from the group. Elizabeth, you never told me you had another daughter, Aunt Gertrude exclaimed, grasping Dakari's hands in her wrinkled ones. What a beauty you are, dear. Those cheekbones. And that hair. Dakari began, but his mother cut in smoothly. Amelia is rather shy, she explained, squeezing his arm in warning. She's been living abroad, studying. The lies flowed from his mother's lips with disturbing ease, as though she'd rehearsed this moment. Dakari shot a desperate look at Vanessa, who merely raised her champagne glass in a mocking toast. Such lovely blonde hair, another relative commented, reaching out to touch a strand of the wig. You must get that from your mother's side. The dress is divine, added a cousin Dakari vaguely recognized. Burgundy is absolutely your color. The compliments continued, surrounding Dakari in a disorienting haze. No one questioned his identity. No one seemed to recognize him beneath the makeup and wig. Even relatives who had known him since childhood accepted the introduction to Amelia without a second thought. Dad appeared with a glass of white wine, pressing it into Dakari's hand. For you, sweetheart, he said, loudly enough for others to hear. Then, in a whisper, You're doing great. Aunt Gertrude is over the moon. Hours passed in surreal slow motion. The initial panic subsided into a strange, detached curiosity. People spoke to Amelia differently than they had ever spoken to Dakari. They asked about feelings, complimented appearance, touched his arm or shoulder when making a point. No one challenged his opinions or tried to one-up his stories. By sunset, an odd realization had settled over Dakari. Being Amelia was, in some inexplicable way, easier than being himself. Having fun? Vanessa asked, finding him alone by the dessert table. This is weird, Dakari admitted, unconsciously smoothing the burgundy fabric over his hips. No one knows it's me. Uncle Richard talked to me for 20 minutes about his divorce. He's never said more than hello to me at these things before. Vanessa smiled mysteriously. Maybe people respond to what they see. What's that supposed to mean? Just that Amelia seems to fit in better than Dakari ever did. Before he could respond, Mom appeared with Aunt Gertrude in tow. Amelia, darling, Aunt Gertrude is leaving and wanted to say goodbye. The elderly woman enveloped Dakari in a perfumed embrace. Such a pleasure to finally meet you, my dear. You must visit me in Florida. I have jewelry that would look stunning with your coloring. She pressed something into his hand. A little gift. After she departed, Dakari opened his palm to find a delicate gold bracelet with a small diamond charm.
She gave me her diamond bracelet,
he whispered, stunned. The one Grandma left her. Mom fastened it around his wrist.
It looks perfect on you.
Mom, this has gone too far. I need to tell her the truth.
His mother's smile faded. And break her heart? She's been so happy today, thinking I finally gave her the niece she always wanted. She adjusted the wig slightly, tucking a blonde strand behind Dakari's ear. Besides, you make such a pretty girl. Much prettier than you ever were handsome, if I'm being honest.
Mom! What? It's true. I've never seen you fit in so well at a family gathering. You're a natural. The reunion ended with a flurry of hugs and promises to keep in touch. Several relatives insisted on exchanging phone numbers with Emilia, making plans for lunches and shopping trips. Dakari's protests weakened as the evening wore on, worn down by the genuine warmth and acceptance he received. In the car heading home, reality began to reassert itself.
That was the most humiliating day of my life,
Dakari declared, though without the vehemence he'd expected to feel. I can't believe you made me go through with this. Vanessa kept her eyes on the road.
You seemed to be enjoying yourself by the end. I was playing a part, that's all. If you say so.
She glanced sideways. But you're still wearing Aunt Gertrude's bracelet. Dakari looked down at the gold band circling his wrist, catching the streetlight as they drove. He hadn't even thought to remove it. The next morning, Dakari expected life to return to normal. The burgundy dress and blonde wig were packed away in the back of his closet. The makeup had been meticulously removed. He'd reclaimed his jeans and t-shirt, feeling the comfort of familiar fabric. But something had shifted. Mom called around noon. Emilia was such a hit yesterday. Aunt Gertrude hasn't stopped talking about you. She's planning to change her will. Mom, you need to tell her the truth. This was a one-time thing for a bet. A pause. But she's so happy, darling. And you looked so happy too. I've never seen you smile so much at a family gathering. That wasn't real. Wasn't it? Another pause. Your father and I have been talking. We think maybe Emilia shouldn't be just a one-day experiment. What are you talking about? We've always supported you, haven't we? No matter what. Mom, there's nothing to support. It was a bet. A joke. If you say so, dear. But if you ever want to talk about it. Anyway, Cousin Rachel invited you, Emilia, to her baby shower next month. I told her you'd be there. The calls continued. Invitations arrived addressed to Emilia. Relatives sent follow-up messages to the phone number they'd been given, asking when they could see her again. 2 weeks after the reunion, a package arrived. Inside was a green silk blouse with a note from Aunt Gertrude. This would bring out your eyes beautifully. Looking forward to seeing you again soon, my dear Emilia. Dakari set the package aside, determined to explain everything to his family. This had gone beyond a simple bet. It was becoming a complex web of deception that would only hurt feelings when the truth eventually emerged. He drove to his parents' house that evening, rehearsing what he would say. They needed to understand this couldn't continue. They had to tell the family the truth. Mom opened the door, wearing an expectant smile. I was hoping you'd stop by. Come in. We have a surprise for you. Mom, we need to talk about this Emilia situation. That's exactly what the surprise is about. She pulled him inside, leading the way upstairs to his old bedroom, kept intact since he'd moved into his own apartment 2 years earlier. The door swung open to reveal a transformation. The formerly blue walls had been painted a soft pink. The sports posters had been replaced with framed fashion prints. The bed now boasted a floral comforter and an assortment of decorative pillows. "What did you do?" Dakari managed, stepping into what had once been his room. "We redecorated," Mom beamed. "For when Amelia visits, or stays." Dad appeared in the doorway.
What do you think, kiddo? Your mother's been working on it all week.
"You can't be serious." Dakari turned in a slow circle, taking in the vanity table that now stood where his desk had been, the full-length mirror, the newly installed clothing rack holding several dresses, none of which he recognized. "We went shopping," Mom explained, following his gaze. "I guessed your size based on that burgundy dress. Was I close?"
"This has to stop," Dakari said firmly. "I'm not Amelia. That was a one-time thing for a stupid bet with Vanessa. You can't just decide I'm your daughter now."
His parents exchanged a look he couldn't interpret.
"We're not deciding anything," Dad said carefully. "We're just creating space for possibilities."
"What possibilities? There are no possibilities! I'm your son!" Mom took his hand, leading him to sit on the edge of the pink-covered bed. "Dakari, we've always known you were different. The way you were so quiet growing up, how you never quite seemed comfortable in your own skin. When we saw you as Amelia, it was like watching you become whole for the first time." "That's ridiculous. I lost a bet. That's all this is." "Is it?" She squeezed his hand. "Because when I saw you laughing with Aunt Gertrude, when I watched you moving in that dress like you'd worn one your whole life, I thought maybe this wasn't just about a bet. Maybe this was an opportunity for you to explore something you've never let yourself acknowledge." "I'm not transgender!" Dakari pulled his hand away. "I don't feel like a woman trapped in a man's body. I don't have gender dysphoria. I'm a guy who lost a bet and dressed up for one day." Dad sat down on his other side. "No one's putting labels on anything. We're just saying that Amelia seemed happy in a way Dakari rarely does, and we're open to whatever that means." "It doesn't mean anything!" But even as the words left his mouth, unbidden memories surfaced. The strange comfort of the shapewear, the way the makeup had seemed to reveal rather than conceal, the natural rhythm he'd found walking in heels by the end of the night. "Just think about it," Mom said, standing. "The clothes are here if you want them. No pressure, no expectations." They left him alone in the pink room, surrounded by evidence of their misguided support. Dakari should have been angry, should have torn down the fashion prints, thrown the dresses on the floor, demanded they repaint the walls. Instead, he found himself touching the fabric of a navy blue dress hanging on the rack. The material was soft, expensive. He wondered how it would feel to wear it. "This is insane," he whispered to himself, dropping his hand. But he didn't leave immediately. He sat at the vanity, studying his reflection in the mirror. Without makeup, without the wig, he saw only himself, the same face he'd known for 24 years. And yet, something about the memory of Amelia's reflection nagged at him. He left an hour later without trying on any of the clothes, telling himself he'd made his point clear. This Amelia business was finished. 3 months passed. 3 months of his parents referring to him as Amelia whenever he visited. 3 months of packages arriving containing feminine clothes, accessories, makeup. 3 months of relatives calling to speak with the niece/cousin granddaughter they'd met at the reunion. "You need to put a stop to this," Vanessa advised during one of their weekly coffee meetings. "It's getting weird." "You think I haven't tried?" Dakari stirred his latte aggressively. "They won't listen. It's like they've collectively decided I'm their daughter now, and nothing I say makes any difference. Vanessa studied him over the rim of her cup. Have you actually told them to stop? In those exact words? The question caught him off guard. Of course I have. Really? Because sometimes I think you're not exactly discouraging this as much as you claim. What's that supposed to mean? She nodded toward his wrist, where Aunt Gertrude's bracelet still sparkled. He'd never taken it off.
It's just jewelry,
he muttered, but made no move to remove it.
And the fact that you're
Growing your hair out? That's just convenience, I suppose? Dakari's hand unconsciously rose to his hair, now reaching past his ears in soft blonde waves. I've been busy. Haven't had time for a haircut. For 3 months? Vanessa's eyebrow arched skeptically. And the way your nails are perfectly shaped and clear-coated? Just good hygiene? Are you accusing me of something? Not accusing. Observing. She leaned forward. Look, if this is something you want to explore, that's cool, but be honest about it. With yourself, if no one else. There's nothing to explore. I lost a bet, dressed up for one day, and now my family won't let it go. That's all. Then tell them. Clearly. Directly. No room for misinterpretation. Dakari nodded, determined to do exactly that. Later that week, he drove to his parents' house, resolve firmly in place. This had gone on long enough. He would make them understand that he was not Amelia, had never been Amelia, would never be Amelia. The pink bedroom door stood open as he passed. He paused, noting new additions. A jewelry box on the vanity, a pair of women's slippers beside the bed, fashion magazines stacked on the nightstand. His parents had continued furnishing Amelia's room in his absence. He found them in the kitchen, preparing dinner. Mom looked up with a smile that brightened when she saw him. There's my beautiful girl. I was just thinking about you. The familiar phrase, once jarring, now almost expected, momentarily derailed his purpose. Mom, Dad, we need to talk. Seriously talk. They exchanged knowing glances. Dad pulled out a chair at the kitchen table. Sit down, kiddo. What's on your mind? Dakari remained standing. This has to stop. All of it. The room, the clothes, calling me Amelia. I'm not your daughter. I'm your son. The same son I've always been. Mom wiped her hands on a dish towel, her expression gentle but skeptical. Are you, though? The same son you've always been? Yes! Nothing's changed except your perception of me based on one day of dress-up. Dakari, Dad said carefully. You've been wearing clear nail polish for 2 months. Your hair is longer than it's been since you were a toddler. You're still wearing Aunt Gertrude's bracelet. That doesn't mean you haven't dated anyone since that reunion, Mom continued. You canceled your gym membership. You've started using different language, different mannerisms. I haven't. Last week you said your outfit was cute. You've never used that word to describe clothes in your life. Dakari felt off balance, as though the floor beneath him had tilted slightly. Had he said that? He couldn't remember, but it sounded plausible. None of that makes me Amelia. No, Mom agreed softly. But it might mean Amelia is part of you, a part you've kept hidden, maybe even from yourself. This isn't... He struggled to find the right words, to articulate the complex tangle of emotions this conversation was stirring. Dad stood, placing a steady hand on his shoulder. Look, whatever you decide, whoever you are, Dakari, Amelia, someone in between or someone else entirely, we love you, That's not conditional. We just want you to be happy, Mom added. And you seemed happier as Amelia than we've seen you in years. The fight drained out of him, replaced by confusion and a strange sense of relief. I don't know what I want. That's okay too. Mom hugged him, the familiar scent of her perfume momentarily grounding him. You don't have to have all the answers right now. But I'm not, he began, then stopped, uncertain how to finish the sentence. Not what, exactly. Stay for dinner, Dad suggested. No pressure, no expectations, just family. The meal passed in relative normalcy, though Dakari noticed his parents had stopped using pronouns altogether, referring to him only by name or with direct address. It was a small adjustment, but one that created space. Space to breathe, to think, to consider possibilities he'd never allowed himself to examine. After dinner, he found himself standing in the doorway of the pink bedroom again, the room that had been created for someone who both did and didn't exist. You can stay the night if you want, Mom said, appearing beside him. The room is yours, however you want to use it. Dakari nodded, still looking at the transformed space. I think I will. Stay, I mean. Once alone, he sat on the edge of the bed, running his fingers over the soft comforter. The entire room felt like a question waiting for an answer. His parents had created this space not just with furniture and paint, but with an openness he hadn't expected from them. His gaze settled on the closet, door slightly ajar. He could see the clothes hanging inside, dresses, blouses, skirts. Clothes for Amelia. Without fully deciding to, he stood and walked to the closet, opening the door completely. The burgundy dress from the reunion hung in a place of honor, protected by a clear garment bag. Beside it, the navy dress he'd touched months ago, and others, casual dresses, formal dresses, separates in various colors, all chosen with care. His hand reached out, touching the fabric of a simple white sundress. It looked comfortable, easy to wear, uncomplicated. Before he could second-guess himself, he took it from the hanger. The transformation wasn't as dramatic as it had been for the reunion. There was no Vanessa to apply expert makeup, no wig to don. But as he slipped the sundress over his head, feeling the light fabric settle against his skin, something shifted inside him. A lock turning. A door opening. He stood before the full-length mirror, studying the person reflected there. The white dress contrasted with skin tanned from summer. His blonde hair, longer now but still masculine in cut, somehow looked right, framing his face above the dress's neckline. Aunt Gertrude's bracelet caught the light as he raised a hand to touch his hair, wondering what it would look like longer still. The person in the mirror wasn't quite Dakari, wasn't fully Amelia, but whoever they were looking back at him, they seemed right. He slept in the pink bedroom that night, not in the sundress, but in pajamas he found folded in a drawer, soft cotton pants and a matching top, technically unisex, but with a feminine cut. They fit perfectly. In the morning, he woke disoriented, momentarily confused by the pink walls and floral bedding. Then memory returned, along with a decision that had crystallized during sleep. Downstairs, his parents were already at breakfast. They looked up as he entered, expressions carefully neutral despite the obvious question in their eyes. "Good morning," Mom said, pouring coffee into a waiting mug. "Sleep well?" "Yes." He accepted the coffee, taking a steadying breath. "I've been thinking about what you said.
about Amelia being part of me."
They waited, giving him space to continue. "I don't know exactly what that means yet. I don't have labels or definitions, but I think I'd like to explore it, to figure it out." The relief and joy that spread across their faces made something tight in his chest loosen.
"Whatever you need,"
Dad said, voice thick with emotion.
"We're here." "I want to grow my hair out longer,"
he continued, the words coming easier now.
"And I'd like to try dressing differently sometimes. Not all the time, at least not yet. But sometimes."
Mom nodded encouragingly.
"Of course. Whatever feels right. And I think—"
He hesitated, then committed.
"I think I'd like to try using the name Amelia when I'm dressed that way, to see how it feels." "We can do that," Dad agreed immediately. "Dakari when you're this way." He gestured to the jeans and t-shirt. "Amelia when you're dressed as her, until you decide what fits best."
It wasn't a perfect solution. It didn't answer all the questions swirling inside. But it was a beginning, an acknowledgement of something that had been awakened that day in the burgundy dress, something that perhaps had always been there, waiting for permission to exist. "Thank you," he said simply, "for creating space for me to figure this out." "That's what family does," Mom replied, squeezing his hand. "Create space for each other to become who we're meant to be." Over the following weeks, the balance shifted gradually. Dakari remained Dakari at work, in public, in most aspects of life, but evenings at home became Amelia's time to wear the sundress or the navy dress or any of the growing collection. Time to experiment with subtle makeup, to learn what felt authentic versus what felt like costume. The blonde hair grew longer, reaching shoulders, requiring new care routines and styling options. Clear nail polish gave way to pale pink, then bolder colors for weekends. Family members were informed in stages. First Vanessa, who responded with a knowing smile and, "About time you figured it out." Then aunts and uncles who had met Amelia at the reunion and accepted the gradual transition with surprising ease. 3 months after that first night in the pink bedroom, Dakari stood before the mirror once more. The reflection showed someone transformed, not by costume or artifice, but by self-discovery. Blonde hair fell in soft waves past shoulders. The burgundy dress, the catalyst for everything, fit better now. Curves having developed in the right places through careful hormone therapy begun under medical supervision. This time, the person in the mirror was unmistakably Amelia. "Are you ready?" Mom called from downstairs. "Everyone's arriving for the barbecue." "Coming," Amelia replied, adjusting the bracelet that hadn't left her wrist since Aunt Gertrude had given it to her. The diamond caught the light, winking like a secret shared. The backyard was filled with family, many of the same relatives who had attended the reunion where Amelia had first appeared. They greeted her with hugs, compliments, the easy familiarity of people who had accepted her transformation without reservation. "That burgundy dress is still your color," Aunt Gertrude declared, patting her cheek. "I knew that bracelet would look perfect on you. A woman knows these things." Amelia smiled, no longer surprised by the acceptance. "Thank you for seeing me before I saw myself." The elderly woman nodded sagely. "Sometimes we need others to hold up the mirror until we're ready to look into it." Later, as the gathering continued around her, Amelia found a quiet moment alone with Vanessa. "Happy?" her sister asked, nudging her shoulder gently. Amelia considered the question, looking out at the family that had created space for her to become herself. "Getting there," she answered honestly. "It's a journey, not a destination." "Deep," Vanessa teased. "But I'm glad. You seem more present now, like you're finally fully inhabiting your life instead of watching it from a distance." The observation struck a chord. "That's exactly it. I didn't realize how disconnected I felt until I connected with this part of myself. All because of a lost bet," Vanessa mused. "Maybe I should start gambling with all my friends. Could be doing them a favor." Amelia laughed, the sound natural and uninhibited. "I don't think it works quite like that. But yes, that bet changed everything." "For what it's worth," Vanessa said, suddenly serious, "I like having a sister. Even one who borrows your clothes without asking? Especially that one." She clinked her glass against Amelia's. "To finding yourself in unexpected places. To creating space," Amelia added, thinking of her parents' unwavering support. "And to burgundy dresses." The sun set over the backyard gathering, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Amelia stood in the warm evening light, surrounded by family, wearing the dress that had started everything, finally at home in her own skin.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!